Uncompromising integrity is almost a given, but have you thought about how separation can still have an adverse effect on your organization? Learn more on 10 Tenets of Leadership. Hi, I'm Andy McCaskey from STR News, introducing Larry Pendergrass, host of 10 Tenets of Leadership. We're going to be talking about really kind of the bedrock or the anchor that is an essential part of leading a modern organization.
Hi, Andy. Yes, this tenet has two parts to it, and the first has to do with integrity, and the second to do with no separation. So actually we'll spend quite a bit more time on no separation because it's a little more unusual for people than integrity, and hopefully you have strong processes in your company that help you to have training on integrity and ethics to make sure that this is just not even questioned anymore by people. But separation is something that's a little more unusual. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, first of all, the idea here, hopefully, is that you can show, again, everybody that you've got the same agenda. And you actually separate yourselves from people in very subtle ways. This is anchoring yourself to the rest of the organization. And it's really all about, in order to really do a good job in this area, it helps for you to understand emotional intelligence. And we'll talk just a little bit about that, because through that, we expect that you'll be able to deliver transparency, empathy for other people, and you'll be able to build bonds.
Well, I know that you've really taken this whole theory of emotional intelligence to heart, and that it's a fundamental part of your management style and really one of the drivers to develop the 10 Tenets of Leadership. Can you run us through quickly and give us a framework that we can relate to?
Sure, be happy to. Quickly, there are 4 domains that are talked about in emotional intelligence, and the first one is self-awareness. And this is just an understanding that a leader needs in what their strengths and their weaknesses are, why they react certain ways in certain situations, what kind of hot buttons they have, to be able to understand when they are getting emotionally upset or excited about something. And so self-awareness, the first one, is just understanding who you are and why you react the way you do. The second one is about self-management. So when you feel these emotions coming on, whether they're positive or negative, how well can you regulate them? Not necessarily squash emotions out. That's not advised in any way, shape, or form. But how well can you use those emotions toward a business purpose? So emotions can be very positive and can be very catching, and your enthusiasm is an example of an emotion that can be something that can be managed in such a way that it's very good for the business. The third one is about social awareness. And in this situation, how well can you, in a social situation, for instance, detect how that crowd is feeling and adjust your message to make sure that that message is well received and best for the business purposes. And then finally, there's relationship management. It has to do with how well you nurture relationships and build bonds, maybe on an individual level. So these are the 4 domains. It has to do with emotional intelligence is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management.
Well, what about those that say that it's really necessary for a manager to maintain a professional distance from people within the organization, or else they won't be effective?
Yes, I think, Andy, the people that say that that's necessary are worried about a couple of things, and some of those things are right to worry about. So, for instance, it's important that if you are going to build bonds, that you do it on a fairly universal level and not pay too much attention, for instance, to one individual that may show favoritism, and you need to avoid all appearances of favoritism. So that's important. But the other worry that people frequently have is, what if I have to lay somebody off or do some corrective action or give them a bad message? I would suggest that all of that can be done with the same amount of professionalism and greater humanity if you've spent the time to build bonds with your people. So I would suggest that that you really don't necessarily have to hold yourself back away from people and separate yourself in order to be somehow more professional. And by the way, when it comes to understanding how you separate yourself from people, it's frequently in very subtle ways. It's maybe who you talk to on a regular basis. It's how your office is set up. If you set up your office, for instance, in such a way that you've got your back to people, that gives them a very clear message that I don't want to be disturbed. In fact, I heard one particular leader one time describe to other new managers who were trying to learn about time management, how do I get more time to do the things that I need to do at work? And this manager suggested you need to sit down at your desk, make sure your desk is turned so your back is to the wall or to the door, and when someone comes in, stand up and walk toward them so they know you've interrupted them, that they've interrupted you. And I would suggest the absolute antithesis of this. Make it very easy for people to come to see you. Plan to be in a 5-minute interrupt mode every day, and go away from your office if you need to get something greater in depth done. Make sure that people know that when you're there for them. So it's about the clothes you wear. It's about the functions you choose or choose not to attend. All of these things may separate you from the people you work with.
So you're saying that we all should be in business casual and that we shouldn't wear coats and ties, that this creates an artificial barrier?
Well, actually, no. That some people might hear me saying that. That's not what I mean at all. You need to dress for respect for the other person. And this isn't always suits and ties. Sometimes it is dressing down so that you are making a connection with it. It's about building bonds. Dressing with respect for someone else is typically, some say, 10% more dressy than the person you're talking to. That may be a good rule of thumb. But what you want to be careful of is not overdressing to somehow give the message to people that you're better than them or that you're running in a different circle than they are. So if you are visiting a customer, it's quite appropriate then to show them the respect to wear a suit and tie unless they specifically asked for that not to happen.
Can you give an example from your career where you kind of got off on the wrong foot because of dress?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I can think of a couple of examples. But one that comes to mind was I was traveling with a powerful person in our organization, and we were traveling China. And the night before the customer visit, we talked to the sales manager about the customer the next day. And we were prepared to wear our suits and ties, certainly, and to see customers as we usually use as a default. But they had specifically asked to make it an informal meeting and not wear suits and ties. The claim was that they were a, quote, California type of company, whatever that might mean to you at home. But the request was, the polo shirts and slacks. And the person I was with really didn't take kindly to that, and so insisted that we still go in with our suits and ties. And actually, as a result, the customer wasn't very happy with us, and it didn't turn out nearly as comfortable a discussion as it could have been. I guess the point through all of this, Andy, is that the message is you really need to dress for the other person to show respect for them. And sometimes, if you're working with engineers at a software company or a highly innovative company, you might find that means that you as a manager are probably better to come in your jeans and your polo shirt or t-shirt.
Again, a fruitful area for business reading. What would you recommend?
Well, one of my favorite books, and I've given this book to many different people, is called Primal Leadership, Learning to Lead with Emotional Intelligence. And this is by Daniel Goleman, Richard Boyatzis, and Annie McKee. You may recognize Daniel Goleman from the original Emotional Intelligence books. And Richard Boyatzis was a professor of mine at Case. I think you really enjoy this. It talks about emotional intelligence. It talks about different styles of leadership. It's a must-read for all leaders as far as I'm concerned.
In summary then, uncompromising integrity is the bedrock that effective leadership is built upon. but you have to pay attention to separation. Almost winding up the series here. Next episode, we're going to be talking about becoming redundant and working yourself out of a job. Larry, we're looking forward to it, and we'll see you next time on 10 Tenets of Leadership.